most people never achieve true financial freedom, even knowing what to do. Why? Because they fall into the most seductive trap of the market. And today, you will discover how to avoid it. Warren Buffett reveals why only 2% manage to get there, and how you can be part of this group by applying simple and universal principles. Most people enter the world of investments seeking the next big shortcut. They want to find the asset that will multiply their capital in months, or the technique that allows them to beat the market with little effort. However, as Warren Buffett shows, it is precisely this mindset that keeps 98% of people stuck in the same place, or worse, at a loss. While the majority chase the next magical promise, the 2% are doing something that no one wants to hear, and that you will discover in 30 seconds. They follow a simple plan, repeat good decisions over decades, and ignore the noise of the market. Buffett has always emphasized that investing is not about genius, but about behavior. The difference lies not in what you know, but in how you act with what you know. And here comes a central concept, the circle of competence. For Buffett, you should only invest in what you deeply understand. This drastically reduces the chance of making mistakes. The problem is that many ignore this principle. Instead, they copy portfolios, follow trends, and end up investing in assets they do not comprehend. And what happens when the price falls? They sell at a loss, precisely because they do not understand the value of what they own. Now, compare this with someone who maintains a clear plan within their circle of competence. 20 years later, this investor has accumulated solid wealth, while those who jumped from trend to trend continue trying to make up for lost time. But what exactly do these 2% do so differently? What universal principles do they follow that the rest ignore? The answer lies in a surprising story. In 1917, a young immigrant arrived in the United States without knowing how to read, write, or even speak the local language. Her name was Rose Blumkin. She had only one thing: €2,500, all the savings of her life, and a simple yet powerful idea: to open a furniture store. What she lacked in technical training she made up for with discipline, resilience, and a complete focus on serving the customer. For 2 decades, Rose saved every penny. She sold used clothes, supported 4 children, brought her relatives from Europe, and continuously reinvested in her small business. When she finally opened her store, she did not offer anything new or innovative. Furniture is furniture, but Rose offered something that few provided: trust, impeccable service, and honest prices. She operated with very low margins because she understood that loyalty is worth more than immediate profit. In 1983, Warren Buffett purchased her store for around €60 million. Even after the sale, Rose continued working in the store until she was 103 years old. The business she built remains active to this day, managed by the 4th generation of the family and generating billions per year. This was accomplished without ever having received external investments. Everything was built through constant reinvestment and a solid business culture. The most impressive part: she built all this in a competitive sector, without technology, without academic training, and without external capital. How? By creating a culture of excellence, where each customer was treated as if they were unique. This philosophy of centering the customer and repeating this behavior for decades created a nearly unshakable business. This principle applies to both business and investment. Companies that treat their customers well tend to treat their shareholders well too. If you are seeking assets with the potential for solid, long-term appreciation, look for those that have a history of clear governance, disciplined reinvestment, and respect for investor capital. These are the ones that withstand crises and thrive over time. But is this behavioral discipline really accessible to anyone? And more importantly, is it possible to build substantial wealth even after making mistakes at the beginning? Warren Buffett has a precise answer to that. Henry Ford did not become known for his first 2 companies, both of which failed before he founded the Ford Motor Company in 1903. Even after that, he faced numerous crises. Nevertheless, he persisted, learned from his mistakes, and adjusted what needed to be adjusted. This trajectory is not an exception. It is the rule among those who truly build something lasting. Warren Buffett often says, "You do not need to hit the perfect business on the first shot. Most people become stuck waiting for the ideal opportunity, and when they miss, they give up. But what sets apart the 2% who make it is precisely their ability to keep playing, even after failures. They see each mistake as an investment in learning. It is in difficult moments that you discover what your strengths are, where your vulnerabilities lie, and which decisions need adjustments. But beware, learning only happens if the mistake is analyzed honestly. That is why Buffett recommends something simple yet powerful. Create your own error autopsy. After each poor decision, write down what motivated that choice, which signals you ignored, and what you could have done differently. Over time, this record becomes a practical manual, tailored to prevent you from repeating the same errors. Now, if it is not necessary to get it right the first time, then what truly matters? What do these consistent investors do, even when the market is down or results take time to appear? If you observe closely, you will notice that none of the previous examples involve genius, cutting-edge technology, or a stroke of luck. Rose Blumkin did not invent anything new. Ford was not born knowing how to build a global automotive company. What they all did was apply basic principles with brutal consistency for decades, and that is the real differentiator. The pattern is clear. They delivered real value to the customer continuously, reinvested their earnings with discipline, and completely ignored external distractions. While most people waste time trying to predict the next market move, these individuals focused on what they could control, and that, in the long run, made all the difference. Warren Buffett calls this pattern composed integrity. The idea is that just as compound interest makes your money grow exponentially, your behavior, if repeated consistently, generates a similar effect. With every right decision, confidence grows. With every disciplined reinvestment, wealth strengthens. But how do you apply this reasoning in the world of investments? Where are the assets that follow this same logic and can be accessible to the average investor? Buffett answers with a principle that he has been following for more than 50 years. When Warren Buffett says, "Invest as if you are buying a business that you intend to hold forever," he is not being metaphorical. He truly acts this way. For him, investing is not a gamble. It is a long-term partnership with businesses that deliver value predictably, even in uncertain scenarios. And the most interesting part? This principle applies equally to those managing billions as it does to us. Do you want to know where Buffett really puts his money? In companies that meet 3 simple criteria, and you can use them too. The secret lies in focusing on predictable assets. Companies that have a history of consistent profits, good governance, and efficiently reinvest capital are generally the ones that thrive across all phases of the economic cycle. They do not promise quick profits, but they deliver solid results year after year. It may seem modest at first, but in the long run, this builds genuine financial fortresses. In practice, this can be achieved through ETFs or by individually selecting stocks. The focus here is not to speculate on appreciation, but to build a growing and secure passive income base. The important thing is to resist the temptation to churn the portfolio. Buy less, hold more. Consistency is the new cleverness. This does not mean that 100% of your wealth needs to be allocated in this manner. It is also important to have diversification among different assets, especially in more unpredictable scenarios. A portion in cash to seize opportunities is essential. It is no coincidence that Warren Buffett is waiting for a market downturn with €350 billion. A portion of your wealth in gold or Bitcoin is also advisable to protect against the fiat system, which erodes the value of money through inflation, causing every euro you worked hard to earn to lose value day by day. And most importantly, another part of your investments should be in knowledge, for you are an asset that can also grow exponentially, completely tax-free, and cannot be taken from you. And although it is the most important of all, it is the most neglected. If you do not want to neglect this crucial investment, check the links in the description. But how can you ensure that you will adhere to this logic, even when the market is declining or emotions try to take control? The answer requires a change in behavior and starts with 3 simple questions. If you truly want to be among the 2% who build lasting wealth, you need to start with something simple, a personal decision-making manual. Before making any investment, pause and ask yourself, do I truly understand this asset? Or am I just following a tip or a passing trend? Am I making this decision based on logic, or am I being driven by fear or euphoria? And perhaps the most important question of all, am I prepared to hold this asset for 10 years, even if it drops in value tomorrow? These questions are not there to eliminate risks, but to avoid predictable mistakes. Most people fail not due to lack of returns, but due to a lack of emotional stability. Therefore, the key lies in consistency, not in genius. A plan for fixed monthly contributions, regardless of market mood, already puts you ahead of the majority. Automating dividend reinvestment transforms small sums into long-term foundations. And reviewing your portfolio only twice a year helps prevent impulsive decisions. Now, to maintain this standard, you need a mirror, something that reflects the reasoning behind your choices. This is where the investment diary comes in. Calmly write down the reasons for each purchase or change. In just a few years, you will have a clear mental map of your successes, your deviations, and the lessons you have learned along the way. Buffett often says, investing is not about beating the market. It is about avoiding beating yourself. And it is exactly this behavioral discipline that underpins the wealth of those who prosper consistently. But before we conclude, there is one more important point. What does all this mean for you, today, right now? And why acting at this moment could make all the difference in the next 10, 20, or 30 years? Buffett made it clear. It is not genius that builds lasting wealth. It is consistency in behavior, disciplined reinvestment, and clarity in decision-making. If you want to be among the 2%, start applying the 3 practical rules you learned here today. And if you want to continue receiving objective, applicable content based on solid foundations, subscribe to the channel. And like the video to help this content reach more investors who need to hear this message. In the end, it is not the person who gets it right the most that wins. It is the person who makes fewer mistakes for longer than others can afford to wait. And this begins today. We will see you in the next video.